Hi, I'm Rocco Nucci, joined by National Wrestling Hall of Fame member Tom Evans for another year of the Matt Report, brought to you by our friends at Cobos Insurance. Cobos Insurance is locally owned and proud supporters of high school wrestling. Please consider Cobos Insurance for all your insurance needs. And once again, I know you see this right in front of me. It is the Winter Forecast magazine. That'll be out Wednesday, so make sure you pick up a copy of that Winter Forecast. Myself, Kristen, Ed Betzel, a bunch of us working very hard on making sure this thing got done. Apologies for a bit of a delay, but Winter Forecast magazine is here. Make sure you pick one up today. It's got wrestling previews, schedules, everything you need inside of that. Tom, a pleasure to be joined with you this year. Our first time in front of the camera together. I don't know who thought that was a fantastic idea, but this wrestling season off to a hot
said
start.
Nobody. You and I behind the mic is okay, Rocco. You and I behind the camera said nobody was a good idea.
Yeah. I'm afraid I have to be in agreement with you on that. But hey, the start of this wrestling season in much better shape than we are, I would say, and it all got started with that Cobos Insurance Classic over there at Avon Lake and the Shoremen. A heck of a showing over there.
Yeah, they weren't very good hosts to everybody else. Boy, they walked away with the tournament over there, putting up 306 points over there, with the second place finishers being Avon, 264 points. But they really came out of the blocks hot at home. And, we got that feeling from Scott Sedlak when we talked to him in the pregame. Mm-hmm. But they came away with five champs: Mike Valerino at 126, Nathan Perry at 138, Jack Marconi, 165, Clay Broadhurst at 215, and Lewis Gallagher at 285. And those are some names we're going to hear a lot this year, because those are some names we heard of a lot last year. Some state qualifiers in that bunch. That's the core of that Shoreman wrestling team, and they came out very, very good. Then they turned around the next week and went over to the Mike Lewis Invitational, which is a really good tournament over down at Buckeye, and they came away with the championship there. And again, Valerino, Perry, Marconi, and Heath. That time, Josh Heath wins the championship at 190 pounds. So a real good start to the Shoremen. They also, Chris Sweeney had a real nice write-up about the dual meet with Avon. Brought out the match spotlight for that one. So they beat the crosstown rival in an early SWC match. Some other Cobos finishers I want to make mention of was at 144 pounds, Diego Morales, and 157-pounder Tristan Green were area champs from Keystone. Mm-hmm. And Avon came away with two champs, in Adam Schumacher at 175 and Ethan Engelhardt at 190 pounds. So good starts to the season for both of those squads as well.
Now, we had some other action as well, a couple of other classics and tournaments to get this season started. I know Midview was in action among a number of our other teams seeing action to get the season rolling.
Yeah, Sean Bristow turned the helms over to Paul Steele over at Midview, but he didn't leave the cupboard dry. They went over the Solon Classic, a great opening weekend tournament, came away with a real strong fifth-place finish, putting 137 points on the board for the middies. But, Tyler Dye finished fourth over there. Hunter Anderson, we know about Hunter. Great article earlier in the Chronicle about him and his brother. Gabe Borer at 165 finished third, and Austin Dye picked right up where he left off last year, winning the title over at Solon at 285 pounds. Then the middies turn around, wrestle their next-door neighbor, Olmsted Falls, and it was a big night for Olmsted Falls. They did their Wrestling Hall of Fame induction, but the middies kind of spoiled the night for them and beat them in the dual meet over at Olmsted Falls in an SWC matchup as well.
And again, you're watching the Matt Report, brought to you by our friends at Cobos Insurance. Tom, tell me about how this new-look Illyria team is off. Of course, Armando Torres, his first year at the helm, taking over for the legendary Eric Burnett, stepping down this past offseason. Tell me how the Pioneers are looking early on.
Well, they're going to be all right, but Armando's done what Eric Burnett did in the past. We've seen a lot of split team by Illyria early on. They sent part of a team over to the Lorraine Titan Classic. They just sent 4 wrestlers to the Ironman this last weekend over at Walsh Jesuit. So the team's been split. They sent part of a team down to Mike Lewis. It looked like they had a pretty good turnout there. So we really haven't seen them whole yet. They've got some SWC duels, so we'll see what the dual meet team looks like coming up. But we also know that Armando will be pulling that team together for some upcoming tournaments. So we'll see what they look like in a full squad setup. But that's not unusual. They always like to test themselves. They sent 4 wrestlers over to the Ironman: McKinney, Holm, Cancel, and didn't come away with any placers, but they come away with a pretty good experience wrestling the top. That's the top tournament in the nation right there.
How's our friend Coach Melvin doing over at North Ridgeville early on?
Joel's off to a good start. I mean, he couldn't be happier. Went over to the Lorraine Titan Classic and finished 5th. Everybody he took placed over at the Titan Classic, and then turned around and came over to our place, the Alpinner Invitational, and had places over there. Ian Ratteri placed at both tournaments. Caleb Grimm, Nate Bober won championships at both the Titan and the Pinner. Caden McNamara placed at the Pinner. Schaefer at the pinner, and Eddie Powers placed second in both tournaments. So, Joel knows that he's a little undermanned this year. He knows it's going to be a tough road to hoe in the SWC for dual meets, but really, I think really happy with the quality of wrestling from his group in the first two tournaments to start the year off.
Now, Tom, of course, one of the biggest things about this year, girls wrestling really coming to the forefront of the conversation. We had a real awesome conversation with Columbia girls head coach Hannah Ferry back at the preview show over at Railroad Brewing in Avon. They did very well at Clyde in the past week.
Yeah, Clyde had a big girls tournament. 51 different schools represented over at Clyde over the weekend. Lorain County, very well represented. Columbia, the Raiders come away with the second place trophy. And I know they were kind of showing off that hardware on Twitter a little bit. But actually, Lorain County was very well represented out at Clyde. Lauren Ficker from Vermilion, 105-pounder, comes away with the championship. Rajan Al-Hashish from Avon Lake at 135 pounds. I love Rajan. I got to interview her last year at the Girls District Wrestling Tournament. Just a ball of excitement. Happy to see her. And then Columbia won Justina Hanna at 145 pounds, came away with the championship. Number of other Lorain County girls placing over there as well. Mia Welsh from Columbia came away with a fourth place finish at 115. Layla Patterson from Avon Lake, fourth at 130. Emily Shoup, fourth at 135 from Firelands. Emily Steiner, fourth from Vermilion at 145. Kaylin Demagal, fourth at 155 from Columbia. And Emily Jurasek, fourth from Keystone at 190. Those are all pretty familiar names, girls that have wrestled previously. Good to see them in a big top flight tournament over at Clyde to get the season going.
Tom, before we look ahead to the weekend ahead and what's coming up as far as the local high school wrestling scene goes, anything else of note to mention within the past week?
Yeah, Columbia's boys went over to the North Coast Classic over at Independence. Really tough tournament. They finished 10th. That's their highest place finish over there. Cole Schulke, we know about Cole, state placer from last year.
Yes, we do.
Set the school mark for 114 match victories. With a whole season in front of him, so he's going to shatter that mark by the time it's all said and done. But I know Cole's looking to stand on the top of that podium this year. But some good performances by Tony Governal, Garrett Such over there as well, over at the North Coast Classic in Independence.
Those Wrestling Raiders, boys and the girls, off to a hot start. All right, Tom, before we get out of here, what's there to look forward to this weekend and maybe in the weeks ahead as far as some big tournaments might go?
Well, this weekend is a big the defense duels over at Vermilion, defense sub duels over at Vermilion. It's a great little dual meet format tournament. We'll go see our friend Cliff German over there, the announcer. I love teasing Cliff a little bit, but just a huge supporter of Vermilion Athletics. He'll be behind the mic, but that's a good format. Vermilion will be there. I think North Ridgeville's there. Several other county teams are at the duels this week, so that's a nice little showing for the county.
Well, I don't think it's possible to go to a Sailors Athletics event without finding Cliff German somewhere in the house, huh?
Yeah, I'll be over, and I'll make sure I get a little interview with Cliff as well too. I always love to get Cliff on the air.
Fantastic. So that'll do it for this week's episode, the debut episode of the Matt Report. Again, brought to you this year by our friends at Cobos Insurance. They're locally owned and proud supporters of high school wrestling. Please consider Cobos Insurance for all your insurance need. For Tom Evans, I'm Rocco Nushin. For Kristen Bauer, thank you for listening and watching the Matt Report. We'll see you next week.